preparation from this came from the CEN saying these are the issues that we need to raise with these officials. So maybe we just talk a little bit about some of the issues that were raised.
Yeah, I suppose, like in terms of where I'm coming from, working in All Hallows College and on a BA program that is focused on, say, adult learners, and particularly adult learners from marginalised areas. And I suppose what I see is that people, and these are the points I made, that people coming through from community education have a head start on those that haven't been through it. They have more confidence, they've good learning skills, and they're more likely to make a success of higher education and of getting a degree. I also would have expressed the view that we have here the NFQ, the National Framework for Qualifications, and that community education shouldn't stop down here at level 4 or 5. That really people, have a right, as far as I'm concerned, to go all the way through, all else being equal, and shouldn't be, inhibited because of lack of finance or otherwise. And they should be able to come all the way through here to doctoral level if that's where they want to be. And I made this point, but one of the barriers to that is the fact that there isn't funding for part-time education. People have to come up with the money themselves or have to have access through other means.
Thanks, Paul. Catherine, what was your experience of it?
What interested me on the day was the amount of people speaking about what community education means, how they can reach out to the hardest to reach, how it gets people in the door. And I think the Department of Social Protection guy was looking at that, this one-stop shop. And I think a lot of the people said that they meet with the homeless, they meet with travellers, meet with women on their own, and they get them in the door, right? One of the things that they were really looking at, he was really interested in the outcomes, and kind of, looking at, they were saying that they were looking at the social and economic outcomes, and we were trying to kind of say to them that, we have a way of measuring social outcomes, and I suppose what I got from that was that would be one of the most important things that we have to do over the next months is show how we measure the outcomes
on the
and
learner
fit
table.
in with them.
And I know I have a friend who was on the other table and she had the same experience. It was incredibly inspiring. It was really inspiring, and it was quite humbling listening to the other learners and their stories. And it was for the minister and the administrators who came to our table. They were really quite humbled, I think, listening to people sharing their stories about the difference that community education had made. And they actually shared their own stories. I think 3 or 4 of the people who came to our table shared stories themselves, because they were touched listening to people's stories. I couldn't believe the variety of people who had availed of and really benefited from community education. I had come into women's studies at a diploma level, and I was in with women, and a lot of these women were women who'd been isolated in the home, who came out of the home, older women who really wanted to have a certificate or a diploma to put on the wall to show their grandchildren, okay? And I had kind of a narrow perspective of the kind of people that accessed community education. But at our table we had young homeless girls, people who had come through addiction, somebody who had come through the prison service, and that was their first encounter with second chance. I call it second chance education because it really is a second chance for a lot of people. There were people who had experienced illness, had to change career, somebody who had been made redundant, and people who were becoming depressed, who are really struggling in their lives and who found community education. And I really think that hearing those stories, it was very inspiring for everybody, for the minister, but for all of us as learners as well. It was really very humbling and really inspiring. I think that their story, it's so authentic and it's so real, and it's not about budgets and it's not about money and it's not about funding. It's just about the impact on their lives, and that's a very powerful message, I think. So for me it was a hugely inspiring morning. I thought it worked really well, and the way it worked as well was very effective.
As a provider, on the practicalities, what were the kind of things that you felt were raised and the kind of reaction you felt?
Okay, I'm just to respond to Beatrice. One of the things I think that we need to keep doing is, we think that people understand what community education is, and all the time we're realising that they don't. It's really pushing that message out. And I'm very struck by the fact you're saying, well, I kind of thought I knew what it was. But it was a narrow view, and I'm involved in it, and I'm a learner participating in it, and my mind is open. So it was a fantastic chance, as people had mentioned, to really get across the breadth of the delivery within community education in terms of its outreach, who accesses it, where their chances are and opportunities in terms of progression, accredited or non-accredited. I think that came across very strongly from the providers. I know it's not all about money, but I'll come down to practicalities. One of the issues that we brought up was just around the difficulties around funding, or the lack of transparency around the criteria in relation to funding. And Fiona Hartley, when she responded to that, said that she would be very clear in their 5-year strategy that there would be very clear guidelines and criteria and consistency across the VCs in terms of how they're funding, and that she was aware of that there was differences with different VCs. Andrea, you also raised a point about the BTIs and the BTI funding, and that often there were gaps, that you'd have a group of cohort of students who then had to wait a couple of, to say, we'll go away now till we have a few months and see till we get the money. And she said that she would look at addressing. A lot of the issues around funding. I raised an issue that we had funding from the DSP for a programme, and we couldn't get clarity around the criteria for that funding. Some projects they funded childcare and overheads, and others that they didn't. So there was a big consistency. Activation Family Support Programme funding that comes through is a once-off funding, and it doesn't allow continuation. It's very challenging to get funding to run a programme again. So the whole issue was raised about the fact that if a programme is successful, if it's achieving quality, quality's programme, if it's achieving excellent outcomes, why can't we get mainstreaming? Why can't it be funded again? And there's a lack. It's very effective.
One of the learners that we were asked, the minister asked us, the learners at our table, is there anything you change about community education? And nobody could think of anything. They were all so happy and so satisfied with their experience and how it had changed their lives and brought up their self-esteem and given them confidence and all of that. And then one of the young girls said that she said, it's hard to find out about it. And that was the only issue. And everybody at the table agreed that it's, I actually found out from a friend, and I learned about my course from somebody else,